Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Double FM Sports. I am Todd File.
I'm Ethan Fager.
And I'm Jeremy Zrak.
And since the NFL draft is in, 9 days? Something like that? Anyway, we are going through our own first-round mock draft that each of us has worked on. We'll give you commentary and insight on what players we think should go where.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's knock it
Pretty
out.
much the short end of it. All right, so first overall pick of the 2020 NFL draft goes to the Bengals. Who do you guys see being a top priority for Zach Taylor's team?
Well, unless he pulls an Eli Manning, I'm assuming number one overall will be Joe Burrow, and I think that's what all the mock drafts are saying. Although there has been a little bit of talk about him, if we were to pull an Eli Manning, what would happen? But I believe Joe Burrow will remain loyal to the Bengals, and I believe they will take him.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the overall. If you're not picking Joe Burrow at one, what are you doing? No hate to the other prospects. Don't get me wrong, guys like Chase Young are amazing football players, but like Joe Burrow is just kind of that guy that I think everyone's accepted is the number one overall pick. And also, I do want to point out something, Ethan. I know you mentioned that because I mentioned the whole thing about the Eli Manning situation that Joe Burrow is talking about. My dad did tell me that Joe Burrow came out and said that he's not planning on doing that, so that kind of kills that argument a little bit.
Okay. For me, I'm actually going to go separate route here. I get all of the arguments for Joe Burrow. I get all the hype around him. But at the same time, I don't necessarily see all of the hype, if that makes sense. I see how everyone's like, oh, he's amazing. He's going to be the next great quarterback in the NFL. And maybe. I don't know. I feel like I personally haven't seen enough of him. But as far as the Bengals go, I don't see Andy Dalton as a problem here. I mean, for years, people have been like, Andy Dalton's trash, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, this guy's a 3-time Pro Bowler. This guy knows what he's doing. And frankly, the reason they're losing games is because their defense can't do squat. So I say you take Chase Young, number one overall. They need someone coming off the edge. You have Geno Atkins in the middle. I think that would be a generally scary D-line combination.
I mean, fair enough. Like I said, Chase Young is definitely a beast. So I definitely don't. I don't have a problem with you taking Chase Young at one.
All right.
I think we all saw that Chase Young was the number one overall consensus pick before Burrow had his historic season.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Number two overall goes to the Redskins. Where are you guys at with that?
Well, I think it's gonna be whoever doesn't get picked first out of Chase Young and Joe Burrow. Although I don't think necessarily the Redskins want to give up on Dwayne Haskins just yet. And we all know Ron Rivera and how he is very more defensive minded. So assume if the Bengals were to take Joe Burrow, pick one, I'm assuming the Redskins will follow and take Chase Young at 2.
Yeah, that's who I also have it too. I think with how I have my mock draft with Burrow going number one, I feel like it's a clear-cut pick. No matter what team you are, unless you have two solid defensive ends that are like, they're not old or, starting to become washed up, I feel like Chase Young is always going to be that guy who comes after Burrow if Burrow goes one. So that's why I have the Redskins picking him.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Ethan, you bring up a good point about Ron Rivera with that defensive background. Had I not had Chase Young going here. I would have put him at the Redskins, but again, you brought up Dwayne Haskins and then not giving up on him. I did kind of entertain the idea of what if they did what the Cardinals did last year and draft Kyler Murray when they already had, why can't I think of his name?
Josh Rosen.
Thank you. Josh Rosen. And then trading away Josh Rosen. So I could have seen that there. But they desperately need help at the cornerback position. So I actually had Jeff Okudah going to the Redskins.
Yeah,
Right.
I get that.
All right. Lions at number 3. What do we got?
I mean, yes. My thing is, yes, there is a need for a cornerback, definitely for them. Although, I think you take the most versatile athlete, or like one of the most versatile guys in the draft, and I would take the linebacker out of Clemson, Isaiah Simmons, for them.
Yeah, I really like that pick. That's the direction I went for the Lions, especially with Darius Slay. I mean, I feel like you'd think cornerback, and you got a solid one in Jeff Okudah in this first round, but I just feel like Isaiah Simmons could do a little bit more for them than Jeff Okudah ever could, simply because Isaiah Simmons not only can play linebacker, but Isaiah Simmons was also a safety, and I'm sure with that safety, skills, he honestly probably could play corner if they really needed it to.
I mean, yes, I get what you're saying about Isaiah Simmons, but I mean, we're talking about the way I look at the Lions defense right now. Linebacker is not one of their issues. I mean, they just signed Jamie Collins, who had pretty much a career year this past year. You have guys like Devin Kennard, who are still solid linebackers. So I think that would almost force someone like Isaiah Simmons to play more of that safety role. And there have been concerns about his physicality, which could also damage his ability to play if they did shift him to a cornerback position. Frankly, kind of as a side note, I don't see why they traded away Darius Slay when you're in need of a quarterback. I would have liked to have seen Desmond Trufant and Darius Slay playing opposite each other, but that's just me. Anyway, what I think would be an interesting proposition is, what if the Lions take Javon Kinlaw at 3? You have him on the D-line, but he also has that pass rushing upside. And then also doing some of the pass rushing D-line stuff is Trey Flowers, who has been quite a disruptive lineman in the past couple of years. So I think that would be interesting. I have Kinlaw going at 3.
I just feel like don't get me wrong, he's a great player. I just think it's a little bit of a stretch for him. I mean, I do have him as a first-round talent, and I feel like Ethan, you probably do too, but I don't see him being a top 3 pick. And I feel like that physicality that you were talking about, the questions about that, I feel like that physicality probably came more from the fact of linebacker, because your linebackers are probably your most physical guys, who are the ones making the tackles, or the ones rushing the passers off the edge. And I don't feel like the physicality questions would really affect him at least playing safety.
Valid point.
Yeah, alright. Number 4, the New York Giants. Although they need a lot, I would say they need a good offensive lineman, so that's why I'm looking at a guy maybe taking like Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa.
Yeah. I went a similar way with offensive linemen, but I did not go with Tristan Wirfs. I went with Andrew Thomas. I mean, they got arguably the best running back in the league. Obviously, I mean, those arguments kind of died down after Saquon's lackluster year, but he did get hurt. I think if you can boost up that offensive line and get Saquon going, then you're gonna be looking at least a few more wins for the Giants. So I went Andrew Thomas.
I mean, yes, I definitely see the arguments for offensive line, but I feel like this Giants offensive line, when they're healthy and when they have opportunities to play well, can be better than they're often portrayed to be. And frankly, I don't know. I don't so much see the offensive line as much of a glaring issue as perhaps safety or even wide receiver. So I actually, you're probably going to kill me for this, but I think the Giants need a safety. And so I had Xavier McKinney going at 4, which I know seems high, but he's the best safety in the draft.
See, that's where I make my argument for Isaiah Simmons. I mean, I think he came into the combine as a linebacker, but he played safety at Clemson for, I'm pretty sure, a greater part of the season.
Yeah, that is true, and I actually did not think about that. You definitely could draft someone like Isaiah Simmons and put him at safety or even into that linebacker rotation.
Yeah. All right. Well, the number 5, the good old Miami Dolphins have the 5th pick. I mean, my thing with the Dolphins is, yes, they do have Josh Rosen and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't think either of those are long-term options for them. So, obviously, I think hashtag tank for Tua. So, I believe they're going to take Tua, number 5 there.
I went a similar route with the quarterback, but
You took Herbert.
Tua was not my guy. I just think I got a lot of respect for Tua, especially after his national championship run 2 years ago. But coming off of hip surgery, or it was hip surgery, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming off of hip surgery, so there's some questions. And I think even if he wasn't coming off of hip surgery, Herbert just strikes me as a more pro-ready quarterback than Tua.
Both valid arguments. For me, though, as far as how I have my draft set up, Burrow is still on the board at this point, which seems crazy. And I was also thinking about perhaps taking an O-lineman like either Jedrick Wills or Tristan Wirfs, because honestly, the Dolphins have a really shoddy O-line. They need someone in there to fill gaps. But when Burrow's still on the board and you need a quarterback besides Ryan Fitzpatrick, much as I love the guy, you do need someone to invest in for the future. So, yeah, I would have Burrow going to the Dolphins.
Okay, pick 6, the Chargers. Now, yes, Phillip Rivers is gone. Again, they do have Tyrod Taylor, and I think it'll be okay for now, but I think you take someone like maybe Justin Herbert there.
Yeah, I kind of went the same route there. I felt like the Dolphins and Chargers probably needed a quarterback. And I think the reason that me taking Herbert over Tua, I feel like the Dolphins really need a now quarterback. The Chargers, I feel like they can probably bridge Tyrod Taylor over the next year or so. And so having Tua, allowing him to practice with the team, get to know the playbook, heal up from his injury while Tyrod Taylor's the starter, I feel like that'll benefit both the Chargers and Tua in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a good argument. I had Tua also going to the Chargers. I mean, I could definitely... Chargers also need a linebacker, so I could entertain the idea of someone like Isaiah Simmons going there. But, yeah, I took Tua at 6 for the Chargers.
All right, well, moving on to the 7th pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. This one's kind of a no-brainer for me, obviously, with guys like Donatari Poe, Gerald McCoy, and Vernon Butler leaving Carolina. I would take someone like Derek Brown, because you really need an interior defensive guy. So I would take Derek Brown here.
Yeah, that's what I went with. And Derek Brown, Ethan, you probably hate it because
Yeah.
but Derek Brown's a beast on the D line, and like you said, they kind of need it. So
Yeah, I mean, the problem with this Panthers team is that there are a lot of needs in a lot of different places. I mean, you need someone on that D line. So you guys both brought up Derek Brown. You also need corners. You need linebackers. You need offensive linemen. You need people coming off of the edge and rushing the quarterback. So, I mean, at this point on my draft, Isaiah Simmons is still on the board. Panthers need a linebacker, so I took Simmons here. I definitely could see Derek Brown. Yeah, or even someone like Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, those guys.
All right. Well, the 8th pick goes to the Arizona Cardinals. For me, I thought they were going to take a wide receiver before this D-Hop trade. So I think the next thing for them is an offensive lineman. So that's why I took Tristan Wirfs for the Giants, and Jerry took Andrew Thomas. I actually took Andrew Thomas at the 8th pick for the Cardinals.
for like the third time this video, Ethan, I like the way you're going. I just picked a different player. Obviously, I picked Andrew Thomas, my first offensive lineman. I know this probably shakes up a bit because I didn't take Tristan Wirfs and I didn't take Jedrick Wills. I actually went with Mekhi Becton, Louisville's offensive lineman. I got to be honest, with the offensive lineman, I didn't really know. I don't feel like if you're a first round pick as an offensive lineman, there isn't much like there's not a big difference in skill level unless you're like, you know, the premier guy. So I feel like really with a bunch of these offensive linemen, unless you need specifically a guard or a tackle, which the Cardinals don't, as a Cardinals fan, I know we need just about everything on the offensive line, so I don't think it really matters what you pick. And so I just went with Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, I mean, we all pretty much hit the nail on the head. You need offensive line for the Cardinals. And, I mean, granted, you also need some help on defense, and you need tight end. And even defensive backs. But as far as defensive backs go, I think you need veteran free agents that come in and not rookies, because you have a lot of young defensive backs. But I actually had Tristan Wirfs going here to the Cardinals.
All right.
Okay, well, with the number 9 pick, we got the Jaguars, and for me, there's a need for a secondary guy out in Jacksonville, obviously, getting rid of Jalen Ramsey a couple years ago, and obviously trading A.J. Bouye recently. So, and Jeff Okudah is still on my board, so I'm going to take Jeff Okudah there.
Yeah, that was pretty much the exact same argument I made for taking Jeff Okudah at 9. I mean, I think Jeff Okudah, same as Chase Young, how he was hyped up to be number 1. I feel like there's a lot of hype for Jeff Okudah being like a top 3 pick. And don't get me wrong, I don't know if you guys have seen this interview, but there was a guy who told Jeff Okudah he was talking about how he needs to clean up his sloppy play. And Jeff Okudah said, "What do you mean, man? I had no holdings, I had no pass interferences, and I barely let up any catches." So, I mean, Jeff Okudah is about as locked down as you get in college football, especially playing in that Big Ten conference. I think Jeff Okudah is a pretty obvious pick for the Jaguars at 9.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the way you're thinking, but I don't necessarily see cornerback as an immediate need, especially when Calais Campbell just left for Baltimore, and Yannick Ngakoue didn't have his best season. I actually took Derek Brown here because in the absence of someone like Calais Campbell, you need someone in that D-line to disrupt the run game and hold that D-line together.
Okay, well, moving on to the number 10 pick. We're a third of the way there, pretty much. We have the Cleveland Browns. Now, I'm taking an offensive player for the Browns. I'm going to take an O-lineman. I'm actually going to take the best O-lineman, in my opinion, available still, Jedrick Wills.
Yeah, I went the same route. I feel like their offense is pretty set and their defense is pretty young. Besides the offensive line, I still haven't picked Tristan Wirfs yet, so that's where I went for pick 10.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you guys are saying about taking O-linemen. And I definitely thought about that. But I couldn't help but think about what if they took CeeDee Lamb? Because, and this might be a little bit early in the draft to start thinking about wide receivers. But I don't know. I feel like it would be really interesting to have a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who didn't have as fast a 40 time as someone like Henry Ruggs, but at the same time, in the words of Nate Burleson, CeeDee Lamb has a catch radius the size of a garage door. So I feel like that would be interesting to have even more of a deep threat like that. And I mean, you have a guy in Jarvis Landry who he's a slot guy who's been forced to play wide out. So if you can move him back into the slot and have a guy like CeeDee Lamb opposite of Odell Beckham Jr., I think that would be a very interesting offensive combination. I also even thought, I mean, we talked about how good Baker was supposed to be last year, and then he let everybody down. So how many chances are we really going to give Baker Mayfield at quarterback before he gets replaced? So I definitely thought about guys like Justin Herbert, Jordan Love. But just for a little bit of pop, I took CeeDee Lamb at 10 going to the Browns.
Okay. Well, moving on to the 11th pick, we got the New York Jets. Obviously, with Robbie Anderson leaving for the Carolina Panthers, I think there's definitely a wide receiver need for the Jets. Then again, there's a lot of needs for the Jets, but I think wide receivers the biggest or one of the biggest. So, you're probably gonna hate me. I took Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb at 11.
Interesting.
Yeah, I went kind of this again for like the fourth time now. I went the same route with position. I liked Todd's argument for taking CeeDee Lamb at 10. And I feel like with a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who's apparently been seeing ghosts and needs some help when it comes to catching the football, I feel like CeeDee Lamb is probably, just because of his shiftiness and his speed and the fact that he can catch a ball that's thrown just about anywhere near him, which, Sam Darnold has a tendency to do, throw the ball somewhat near his receiver, but not really. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is my guy to go with for the Jets.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a wide receiver need. I actually took Henry Ruggs here, because, I mean, you need that deep threat. Sure, you've got guys like Jamison Crowder, and I believe they still have Demaryius Thomas, who, I mean, those guys are your vets, and they can really invest in a rookie player and build them up. But you need a deep threat. You need someone who can get behind defenses one-on-one with defensive backs and make plays. So with the speed that Ruggs has, I'm taking him at 11.
Okay. Well, then we have the Las Vegas Raiders at 12. Again, they really haven't had a good wide receiver, true number one wide receiver since getting rid of Amari Cooper. So I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb here, actually.
Yeah, I feel like right now it's the bulk of where our wide receivers are going to go for the first round. So I originally went with Jerry Jeudy, but I'm now thinking about it. I don't really know. Like, Jerry Judy's kind of a guy who gets behind the defense, like Todd said. He's a deep threat. but I don't know how well Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr throw the deep ball as much. I don't think their deep ball skill is as good as it can be, and for that reason, I'm about to change my pick to Henry Ruggs because I feel like Jerry Jeudy maybe doesn't fit their team as good as I originally thought.
JR, you realize when I was talking about a deep threat, I was talking about Ruggs, right?
Jerry Judy's way bigger than Ruggs, though.
I mean,
okay. Well, then
but I was talking about the speed and getting behind defenses.
Well, then my point was that Jerry Jeudy, he just kind of strikes me as a deep ball kind of like contested player, and I don't know how well Mariota and Carr can throw that deep ball contested throw.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I feel like if you can have a big body wide receiver anywhere on the field, I mean, it's like having, granted, he plays tight end, but it's like having a guy like Travis Kelce who just kind of roams the field, and if you can hit him above, like, I don't know, say for some absurd reason he's getting covered by a corner, if you can throw that anywhere above the corner's head, that's Travis Kelce all day. So if you can have something like that with Jeudy, I think no matter what team it is, that's a role that needs to be filled. So I had Jerry Jeudy going at 12 to the Raiders.
Okay.
All right.
Well, pick 13 for the 49ers after they got that from the Colts in the DeForest Buckner trade. I actually took Henry Ruggs here because I would like to see Ruggs, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle in offense. I think that would work out pretty nice.
Yeah, I went with my third receiver in a row as well. I went with, obviously, I didn't pick Jerry Jeudy last pick. I went with Jerry Jeudy here simply because I feel like the speedy kind of wide receivers, they already have those in San Francisco, and I feel like they don't really have a solid deep threat. I mean, George Kittle can go up and catch the jump ball, but, I mean, George Kittle's not a wide receiver. I think this is just a little bit better of a pick. I think this is a better spot to take Jerry Jeudy. That makes just a little bit more sense to me, especially with the fact that I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo can throw the deep ball, the deep contested ball, a little bit better than Mariota and Derek Carr.
I mean, yeah. I definitely get what you guys are saying for a wide receiver. But at the same time, I mean, later on in the draft, I do have the Niners taking another wide receiver. Yes. But anyway, I feel like, I mean, losing someone like DeForest Buckner, you need someone on the D-line. I could also see considerations for even that O-line because you have guys like Joe Staley who are getting old. They're probably considering retirement in the next couple of years. Or even defensive backs who are probably going to leave on free agency in the next year or two. But I prioritized the D-line here. So I actually took Ross Blacklock because at this point in my draft, he was pretty much the highest available pure defensive lineman that wasn't really devoted to the edge.
Okay.
I gotta be real here. I don't even have him in my first round,
Yeah.
let alone know the name, but...
All right. Well, moving on to the 14th pick, we have the Buccaneers. And since you have Tom Brady coming there, I think you need a little more protection, beefing up that line a little bit. So that's why I would take someone like Mekhi Becton there.
Yeah, Ethan, I think we got some pretty similar thoughts when it comes to a lot of these picks because I also went the offensive line. Obviously, I already picked Mekhi Becton at 8 to the Cardinals. Tristan Wirfs and Andrew Thomas are off the board for me, so that leaves, I feel like, the last potential first-round offensive lineman in Jedrick Wills to be taken. I mean, Tom Brady's old, man, and he's still doing great. He's still being as old. He's Tom Brady. So, but if he gets hit pretty hard by one of those NFC defensive lines, 49ers definitely come to mind with a bunch of young guys who are just looking to hit people. there goes your franchise quarterback, and they definitely need some O-line.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I took Jedrick Wills here because he was still on the board, and I actually prioritized him over guys like Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton. But, yeah, Buccaneers need O-line help, especially when you bring in a high-profile guy like Brady.
All right.
Moving on to the 15th pick, we've got the Denver Broncos here. For this one, I actually took someone like Javon Kinlaw purely because I think, you'd have a very good pass rush with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb along with Javon Kinlaw, so I think that's something they would definitely do.
Ethan, I don't know how we had such a similar draft because I also went Javon Kinlaw. I feel like the offense for the Broncos is kind of set with a bunch of young guys, Cortland Sutton, Philip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, Drew Lock. There's not much argument for anything on the offensive side. And I just thought if you paired those two edge rushers and Chubb and Von Miller, like you said, and you put some guy in the middle to get to the quarterback, you could be looking at something like what the 49ers had this past year. And obviously there's a lot of disruption in the backfield of the quarterback with that defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely take that. I definitely like that. But obviously, for me, Kinlaw's already off the board. And, I mean, Broncos, they do need help at wide receiver because at this point it pretty much just is Cortland Sutton. And sure, there are other smaller role-playing guys. So I took Justin Jefferson here. But I could also see, I definitely see a guy like Kinlaw and how scary that would be. I also could entertain the thought of getting another O-lineman, or even, what was I going to say? I literally cannot remember. Yeah, sure, we're going with that.
All right, well, moving on, we have the 16th pick for the Falcons. Obviously, when I'm thinking about this, I think obviously they're in need of an edge guy for Vic Beasley, and I'm actually taking Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State there.
I don't like that pick as much as I like Penn State, being from Pennsylvania. He's a good player, but I don't see him as a first-round talent. So I didn't really like any of the edge rushers going this high that are left. So I went a different route. I feel like the Falcons have paid Keanu Neal way too much over the last few years for him to just keep getting hurt. And that's not on Keanu Neal. That's just on bad luck. But I feel like he's a little bit of a durability issue. Now, Todd, you had Xavier McKinley going pretty high, and you said he was the best safety in the draft. And while I do respect his talent, I feel like you're missing a huge name, and that's LSU's Grant Delpit, who didn't have the greatest season this year because of his ankle injury. But I feel like Grant Delpit, healthy, is the best safety in this draft class.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely a good argument. I went a similar-ish route in shoring up that secondary. Obviously, Falcons just cut Desmond Trufant, and I think you need another corner. So I went with C.J. Henderson.
All right. Well, for the 17th pick with the Cowboys, and actually, I took C.J. Henderson there. Obviously, getting rid of Byron Jones. They need a good cornerback, and I think C.J. Henderson's the best one left on my board.
Oh, I swear, me and Ethan did not get together before this video and the exact same thing, but for literally the exact same reason of losing Byron Jones, I went C.J. Henderson, the cornerback for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. Since I already took C.J. Henderson and let him go to the Falcons, I could definitely see someone like Christian Fulton going to the Cowboys. or even, I mean, at this point, Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton are still on my board. So I could even see someone like Andrew Thomas going after you lose someone like Zach Martin to retirement. But, I mean, Robert Quinn just left. Malik Collins is gone. You need someone in that D-line or on the edge. So, and I apologize in advance. I don't follow college football that much. So I'm going to butcher this guy's name. But Caleb Vaughn, I don't even want to try with his last name.
Shazen?
Say that again?
Shazen, I think.
Shazen? Okay.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because when I put his name on my draft board for one of these future first round picks, I was really hoping somebody would say that name, and I'd just be like, yeah, whatever that person said, because I had no clue how to say it.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, I'm taking him to the Cowboys. You need some more edge power with D-Law there. So,
All right.
All right. Well, moving on to the 18th pick. We got the Miami Dolphins again, and I think after Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Dolphins have always had a need for a safety. So actually, I took Grant Delpit here purely because I think it would be very scary to see what like him, Xavier Howard, and Byron Jones might be in that secondary. That's very scary to me. Those three in a secondary together.
Yeah.
I mean, I just cut off JR. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
You're good. It was my pick anyways. I was going to agree with him, so if you want to say something.
Nah, you're good. Go for it.
All right, well, obviously I already took Grant Delpit with my little tangent that he's the best safety in this draft, so I went a similar route, different player. Xavier McKinley, I feel like he's the other safety that's kind of a big name in this draft, so I went him.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think the Dolphins do need a safety after losing. Well, not losing, but really just pawning off Minkah Fitzpatrick. But they need some serious offensive line help. And with guys like Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton still on my board, I took Andrew Thomas here.
All right.
Moving on, we have the 19th pick, and we got the Oakland Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Sorry, I apologize. I keep messing that up. I've done that so many times. I apologize, Las Vegas Raiders. I do think they need a cornerback, and that's why I would probably give them I'm gonna say Trayvon Diggs for the Raiders there.
All right. I definitely thought about cornerbacks. I don't really know why I went this route, to be 100% honest. After pick 18, my certainty for, and my reasoning for these picks kind of fell off, besides a few, simply because I don't know. These are the teams that started to make the playoffs. I mean, so there's less holes. Last year in college football, I was kind of high on Kenneth Murray, the only good defensive prospect out of Oklahoma, in my opinion. And so I went with him. He's a middle linebacker, but he can play. He's a pretty decent edge rusher, I'm pretty sure, watching some college football the last 2 years. So, yeah, just, hate on me for that pick, because I know that there's not much reasoning besides the fact that I watched him play and I thought he was good. But
I mean, I'm not going to hate on you per se for that. I just personally don't see the need for a linebacker when you have zero secondary like the Raiders do, especially, well, not zero. I mean, you still have Jeff Heath, but after that deal with Eli Apple fell through, you need a cornerback. So I actually took Christian Fulton here instead of Trayvon Diggs.
Okay. All right. Well, the 20th pick, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think after, especially, like we said, how do you say the guy's name? Yannick Ngakoue and Clyde Campbell both leaving. I think you need some guy.
Yannick Ngakoue is still there.
Yeah, he's still there.
I thought he left.
They franchise tagged him.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, he just didn't have a good season last year, so
I would
Yeah.
still take an edge here, so that's why I'm taking the Clavon Chasson guy or whatever.
Don't try and speak like he's trying Chasson.
Yeah. No, I'm taking him.
I went a completely different route here. I just went with a wide receiver. I know that the Jags have a pretty decent wide receiving core, but I just don't feel like there's a clear-cut number one guy in Jacksonville. Like DJ Chark and Dede Westbrook, and if there are any other receivers I'm forgetting, please chime in.
Chris Conley.
Yeah, Chris Conley, that's the other guy. But like, I don't know. I don't see a huge like that guy is the number one. I feel like all of them had decent games at some point in the season, and it kind of just like rotated. Like DJ Chark blew up in fantasy like week 4 or something like that, and then never really had much more than like a 10-point game. And so I went with Justin Jefferson out of LSU. I think although he had Jamar Chase on the other side of the field in college, I feel like Justin Jefferson's just I don't know. I feel like he's a top-tier wide receiver that's not getting as much hype simply because of Ruggs, Lamb, and Judy. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of a wild pick, but I went Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I feel like if you want to improve that wide receiver core and give them a clear-cut number one, the answer isn't going to come in the draft. I feel like just throwing another young guy at the Jags offense isn't going to do a whole lot. I'd say if you really want to shore up that wide receiver core, you need to bring in some free agent vet who is like actually good. And I mean, the next 10 or so picks, I get into that with wide receivers and some of the other positions. But I'm going to go a similar route as Ethan. You need someone coming off the edge to help complement Yannick Ngakoue. So I took Yetur Gross-Matos.
Okay.
All right.
Well, moving on to the 21st pick, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles are taking a wide receiver for me, and personally, I think they're both their wide receivers. Like I think Deshaun Jackson, we've seen durability issues over the past couple of years, and obviously Alshon Jeffrey's been having his injuries. And I think the Eagles need someone that's very fast, so that's why. And since Henry Ruggs is on the board, I'm taking one of the fastest guys that's still left, and that's why I took maybe a bit of a shocking one, maybe a guy like Denzel Mims out of Baylor.
We're on the Eagles right before I accidentally screw up and start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I still have Trevon Diggs on my draft board, so I went with Trevon Diggs. The Eagles secondary, there just was holes galore this past year, I feel like. Now, a greater part of that was injury, but they did have a few notable names in secondary leaving, and so I just felt like Trevon Diggs is a pretty good prospect, and the Eagles need some secondary help. Obviously, they need other help other places, but I want Trevon Diggs, who I don't know if you guys know this, but there's rumors that I just saw, because I had to make sure that I knew who I was talking about, that the Bills are going to trade into a pick so that Stephon Diggs and Trevon Diggs, who are brothers, can play together.
I
Oh.
was actually wondering about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just happened to look it up, and the first thing that came up was that they might trade to pick him.
Yeah. I definitely like what you're thinking with Trayvon Diggs, because Eagles do need corner help. Ethan, as much as the Eagles need wide receiver help, I'm going to say the same thing that I said last pick. The Eagles don't need more young guys just thrown at them in the offense. They need good veterans. And so here I actually took Kenneth Murray, who JR was talking about earlier, because Eagles, they got a lot of holes in a lot of places, and they do need some help desperately at that linebacker position.
I'm glad someone else took Kenneth Murray. I thought I was going to be on an island by myself taking it.
All right. 23rd pick, we have the New England Patriots.
23rd, 23rd. You skipped 22.
Oh, sorry. 22.
The Vikings.
The Vikings. I apologize. I think after losing Xavier Rhodes, probably need a cornerback. That's why I really have liked this guy out of Utah, Jalen Johnson. I think he's just really aggressive, physical, and I think he would be getting the job done for them.
Yeah, I don't like Jalen Johnson, but I don't know. I feel like the Vikings, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but who's on the defensive line for the Vikings? I don't know.
Daniil Hunter is pretty much the only big name now because Everson Griffin and Linval Joseph both left.
Okay, good. My reasoning is not shot now. I went with the D end out of, I forget where, that we don't know how to pronounce his name, simply because he's a talent, and I think that the Vikings could use some help at D-line, especially with losing some of their, older guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. By the way, I think Caleb Von Chasen, or if I'm even saying that right, he's either at a Clemson or LSU, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I went the same road as Ethan here. You just lost Xavier Rhodes, but I instead took Trayvon Diggs. And part of that, I don't know, I feel like as a Vikings fan, is me just like wanting some of the sentimentality of Stephon Diggs. But just maybe without all of the personality, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't know. That's partially just me. I don't know how smart that is, but yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to the 23rd pick now, we have the Patriots. I think what you need to do here, they need a wide receiver, and that's why I actually gave them. I gave them Justin Jefferson here.
All right, fair enough. The Patriots haven't signed a quarterback yet, right? Besides whatever.
Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, I don't know. Jarrett Stidham, he had a pretty great college career out of Auburn. But, obviously he sat behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady. So he hasn't gotten much time to shine. But I don't know. This guy, I feel like the last week or so has really jumped up the draft board. The quarterback out of Utah State, I feel like it's a very Bill Belichick thing to do, to come and take this guy and, turn him into something great. So I went Jordan Love to fill that quarterback need of the Patriots now that Tom Brady's gone.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't really like that because I feel like, I don't know, the Patriots aren't one of those teams who are just going to, draft a quarterback when they already have a quarterback that hasn't had a chance yet, really, to play. Maybe they would. I'm not sure. And, yes, they definitely do need wide receivers, but, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot. They don't just need another young guy thrown at them. They need people who have proven themselves who can come in as free agents. And granted, the free agency window is starting to wrap up. A lot of the better guys have been taken off the board. But I actually took Patrick Queen here at linebacker. You just lost Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy. You need a linebacker, so that's why I took Patrick Queen.
Okay. Moving on to the 24th pick, we have the New Orleans Saints. Jerry, you're going to be happy. I'm joining the train. I did have Kenneth Murray here. I think this is an absolute steal for the Saints because they need a linebacker, and Kenneth Murray is very good, as we've seen. So this, I think, is a good fit for them.
All right, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thought Kenneth Murray was a first-round pick, but obviously he's not on my board anymore. I feel like now I kind of forgot about the fact that the Eli Apple trade fell through, and so I went cornerback. I went Jalen Johnson, the guy out of Utah, Ethan, that you brought up a pick or two ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Saints cornerbacks have kind of let them down a little bit in the last couple of years besides Marshawn Lattimore, and I feel like if you could pair someone, possibly like a young guy like Jalen Johnson, with a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, who's kind of proved himself to be an elite cornerback, I feel like the Minneapolis Miracle won't happen again.
Could be. I actually, again, went a similar road as Ethan for a linebacker, but I actually took Zach Bond here out of Wisconsin.
All right.
Okay, moving on to the 25th pick, we have the Vikings. For me, here, I would take someone like Jalen Reagor out of TCU. I think he just adds an explosive attribute to that offense, which was what Diggs was for the Vikings. So I think adding him along with Adam Thielen makes a good combination there.
Not gonna lie, I think I'm just gonna I'll change that. I picked a guy and I cannot figure out who I picked because I don't know who this guy is. But like Ethan said, I feel like they need some wide receiver help with Stephon Diggs, so I'm gonna change that pick from the guy that I don't remember who he is to Denzel Mims, so you can add some wide receiver depth, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, Vikings do definitely need some help at wide receiver. I would also say, like JR said earlier, they need help at edge. So I actually took AJ Epensa here out of Iowa.
Okay.
All
right. Moving on to the 26th, we have another Dolphins pick. And I think we talked about it before. They need some help in the O-line. And I haven't given them that help until now, and I'm going to give them that help with the form of a 6'7", 350-pound guy known as Isaiah Wilson. So I think that'll help them.
I don't know. I don't think Isaiah Wilson's a first-round pick, so I don't really see any other offensive linemen in my first round besides the four that I mentioned already. I feel like the Dolphins' wide receiving core got a lot of hype, especially with Preston Williams being an undrafted guy, but he's a big target. I feel like, I don't know. I like the athleticism of a guy like Jalen Reagor, who I'm pretty sure is out of TCU. Out of the last few players that I have on my draft board, I feel like he's the best guy that would suit the Dolphins simply because of his athleticism.
Interesting choice. Two of the really big remaining needs I see as far as my draft is you need a tight end, and you need a safety. And you guys brought up Grant Delpit earlier. I actually have him going off the boards now to the Dolphins. So the Dolphins do still end up with Grant Delpit.
Okay. Right. Moving on to the 27th pick. This is the Seahawks. So with this pick, I'm assuming Jadeveon Clowney does not come back to Seattle, and I'm gonna I want them to have an edge. So I actually put AJ Epenesa, or however you say it, the guy at Iowa.
I thought it was Epenesa.
No, well, is it
Epenesa?
I don't think he pronounced the E like that. I think he just pronounced it like normal.
I don't think there's an E between the N and the S, is there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
It's Epenesa. So I said Epenesa.
Oh, yeah, it is. Never mind.
So that's how I took that.
Right.
Well, despite how you say it, Ethan, for like the millionth time in this video, I agree with you. I don't think Javon Clowney's going to come back. So I gave him AJ Epenesa, another edge rusher, pretty much exactly like you said.
Yeah, for here, I definitely agree with edge. But for me, a bunch of the big edge guys had already come off the board. So at this point in the draft, I actually took a guy like Bradley Anae at edge simply because at this point he's the best available option.
Okay. All right, well, moving on to the 28th pick. We're almost done. Baltimore Ravens. I think they need something at linebacker, and that showed especially in the second round game where they lost to the Titans. They got mauled by Derrick Henry. So I would say maybe taking someone like Patrick Queen at LSU here.
All right. I went with a really like out there pick. I understand the need for linebacker, but I don't know. I really just don't like what's going on in the backfield of Baltimore. I mean, Mark Ingram's all right. I just feel like Mark Ingram's not going to have the year that he had this past year again. I don't know. It's just like a random hunch I kind of have. So now, this is kind of contradicting something that I've been known to say. I feel like you don't take a running back in the first round, but I'm taking a running back in the first round. And it originally would have been Travis Etienne, but he's coming back for his senior year. So I went with Wisconsin's Jonathan Taylor just because he's a force to be reckoned with in the Big Ten, and I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, that does definitely intrigue me. I also see the need for a linebacker. And at this point, I actually took Akeem Davis-Gaither here. I could also see O-line trying to fill the shoes of Marshall Yanda. But, yeah, I took Davis-Gaither here.
Okay. Well, moving on to the 29th pick, we have the Tennessee Titans. I think the Titans do need a linebacker, so that's why I gave that the best available in the Wisconsin guy, Zach Bond.
This is another kind of a reach pick, I've got to be honest. It was late at night, and I didn't exactly look at guys that I forgot. Like, I don't know. I kind of just went off of what I remembered the Titans team looked like, and Logan Ryan's a little bit old, even though I had him on my all NFL team of this past year, and I felt like Christian Fulton deserved to be a first-round pick, and I hadn't picked him yet, so I went Christian Fulton in 29.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I feel like the Titans have bigger needs, though, in their edge, because, I mean, Jarrell Casey is now a Denver Bronco, and the Titans have pretty much nobody. And like I said earlier, the edge guys are getting kind of thin here for me. So I took probably the best available at Terrell Lewis.
All right.
30th pick here for the Green Bay Packers. I'm giving them a wide receiver because they do have a number one in Devontae Adams, but I think the number two is very cloudy for them. And I actually took this guy out of Colorado, Laviska Shenault Jr. out of Colorado, because I just think he's very physical. He's a dual threat. Like, he can go long or he can go short, so that's why I took him.
Ethan, I swear our minds literally must have been thinking the exact same thing while making this list for each other, because I also went with Colorado's wide receiver, Laviska Shenault, just because, like you said, Devontae Adams is up there as the number one. And with all due respect to, Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, or whatever that guy's name is.
That's his name, but yes.
I don't really see them being wide receiver number twos. And I think Laviska Shenault, although I don't have him going as high, I think, honestly, in a couple of years, he could be rivaling the talent of guys like Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, and CeeDee Lamb, who we have going a little bit higher, simply because I think, like Ethan said, he's a super physical receiver who has good skills at all aspects of the receiving game.
I mean, yeah, I definitely could see an argument for Laviska Shenault. I actually had him going a little bit later in my draft. But the glaring need that I see for the Packers, yes, you do need a little bit of help at wide receiver, especially because of depth. I mean, that's a problem they ran into last year. Also, linebacker, even O-line after losing guys like Brian Bulaga. But the one glaring need I see is tight end. Jimmy Graham is gone, and who's left? Nobody. So this is actually where I see the only tight end pick of my first round, and that's where I see them taking Cole Kemet.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. I won't disagree with that.
Moving on to the second to last pick, 31, the San Francisco 49ers. I picked a cornerback purely because I think Richard Sherman is starting to get a little on the older side. Although he did have a great 2019 season, he's not getting any younger or any faster. So that's why I'm taking someone that's very fast in Jeff Gladney out of TCU.
All right. I don't know. I still think Richard Sherman's got it in him, even though he's not the fastest cornerback. He's still one of the more physical guys who, I don't know, it might just be his personality that I kind of like too that's making me not want to replace him yet. So I went with a guy that I'm pretty sure both of you already picked. I know their linebacking core is all right, but I feel like their linebackers are more edge rushers. So I went Patrick Queen out of LSU.
Okay. Both of those I'd say are decent picks. I feel like linebacker isn't as much of a need for the Niners, especially when you have guys like Drake Greenlaw in there. But this is where I took Laviska Shenault. You don't have Emmanuel Sanders anymore. And you just have a bunch of, honestly, middling wide receivers besides Deebo Samuel. There was a little concern about taking a young guy and not really having a vet in there that has proven himself, like Emmanuel Sanders would be. But I took Shenault there.
Definitely, fair enough.
Okay, and we have the last pick of the first round going to the Kansas City Chiefs. My thing with this, losing Emmanuel Ogbah, probably I said need an edge, and that's why I took a guy like Curtis Weaver out of Boise State.
All right. Another guy that you guys kind of already picked, and I feel like this is probably because of my two stretch picks and Jordan Love and Jonathan Taylor that I haven't picked him yet. I don't know, the Chiefs offense, I feel like we all know is pretty set, and the defense is pretty much where they're going to need most of their pretty much any requirements. And so I went with linebacker out of Wisconsin, Zach Bond. I don't know. It was just kind of like a best player available on the defense, in my opinion, that I haven't picked yet.
Yeah. I went a somewhat similar route in shoring up the defense, and I more so targeted that secondary, getting a little bit of help at cornerback, and I took A.J. Terrell.
I don't know. I like A.J. I liked A.J. Terrell. However, he just got absolutely killed by Jamar Chase. I mean, I'm pretty sure he let up 3 touchdowns in the national championship game. And I know it's just one game, but I don't know. That kind of, it worried me about him a little bit.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, for me, the Chiefs, that pick was just kind of not a throwaway, but there were multiple people you could just kind of throw in there, and not a whole lot of glaring needs, but yeah.
All right, well, that's our first. I guess that's our first round. Obviously, with the draft coming up soon, we'll definitely get you our reaction podcast as soon as possible after the draft's over, just to let you guys know what we think of the picks they actually made, and whether they actually make sense or not, or it's best play or something. So, yeah, we would do more than one round, but then I feel like we're getting into the players that not many people are interested in. So
we'll play that by ear. We'll see what ends up happening.
We could do maybe second round, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. I think that's pretty much all we have. So stay tuned for more podcasts and just a little throw out to another video that may potentially be coming out. That won't be a podcast, but it'll be some more exclusive content. So we'll see if that comes out or not. If it does, hopefully you guys like it. But until then, and until next time, I'm Todd File.
I'm Ethan Fager.
And I'm Jeremy Strack.
And we're signing off.